Today we're taking a look at the Ticova Ergonomic Office Chair. Coming in at around $120 to $160 on Amazon with thousands of positive reviews, the Ticova is easily one of the best budget office chairs I've tested, and after using it for the past few months, I can definitely see why it's become so popular. In this video, I'll be giving you my full review after using this chair as my daily driver for the past 2 months. We'll dive into all the key features, highlighting everything I liked about the chair, as well as the things that I didn't like, so by the end, you'll have a clear idea of whether this chair is going to be the right fit for you. But before we dive in, I just want to mention that I bought this chair with my own money. This video isn't sponsored, but I will have some affiliate links down in the description. If you find this review helpful and want to check out this chair, please consider using those links as it really helps support the channel at no extra cost to you. So with that out of the way, let's jump right in by talking about the design. Now when it comes to the design, the Ticova takes a pretty basic approach. It has that typical ergonomic office chair look that you've probably seen a million times before. There's nothing really remarkable or eye-catching about it, and it only comes in black. I mean, it doesn't look bad by any means, it's just pretty generic overall. And honestly, there's not too much else to say about it. But at this price point, that's perfectly fine in my opinion. I'd much rather have a chair that focuses on comfort and functionality rather than trying to look flashy while sacrificing on the features that actually matter. Now when it comes to comfort, this is where the Ticova really shines compared to most office chairs in this price range. Starting with the seat, I think the Ticova's seat is very comfortable. It has medium firm padding that gives you good support while still having enough give to keep you comfortable. I've been able to sit in this chair for 8+ hours a day without any issues of bottoming out. That said, since the Ticova is likely using a lower end foam pad, I could definitely see it compressing over an extended period of time. But for now, it's honestly the most comfortable seat I've tested in this sub $200 price range. The seat is also padded all the way around with no hard frame edges, which is great if you're someone who likes to tuck one leg under the other or sit cross-legged. Now one limitation is that there's no seat depth adjustment at all. This is pretty typical for office chairs under $200. Now in general, I'd say the seat is designed for people of average height around 5'4" to 5'9". You can stretch it a bit, but if you're particularly tall or short, then this seat might not fit you that well. Now as a rule of thumb, when you're sitting in the chair, you want your legs to be at a 90-degree angle with 2 to 3 fingers of space between the inside of your knees and the seat edge. I'm 5'6" and it fits me just fine, but if you're on the taller end, say over 6 feet, then you might find that the seat doesn't provide enough leg support. And if you're shorter than 5'4", then you might find that your legs press up against the edge of the seat, which can cut off circulation. Moving on to the backrest, the Ticova uses a mesh design that's very breathable. If you're someone who tends to run hot while sitting, then you'll probably like this backrest. Now while the mesh quality won't wow you, it's pretty comfortable and supportive. One thing I like is that you can actually sink into the backrest without feeling the hard plastic frame underneath. This is pretty impressive since a lot of mesh chairs, even ones that cost way more, have issues with this. My only minor gripe is that since the mesh material itself isn't the highest quality, it can feel a bit scratchy at times and tends to catch on loose woven clothing. It also doesn't have that much elasticity, and I expect the mesh to get even more loose over time. Now it's not a major issue and it's to be expected with a chair at this price point, but it's still worth mentioning. Now when it comes to the shape of the backrest, the Ticova has a built-in lumbar curve that provides good support overall. In addition to that, the Ticova has a 2-way adjustable lumbar support that offers both height and depth adjustment, which is pretty rare at this price point. Many chairs that cost twice as much don't even offer this level of adjustability. That said, the adjustment mechanisms themselves can be a bit clunky. The height adjustment requires quite a bit of force, making it difficult to fine-tune while you're sitting in the chair. As for the depth adjustment, it uses a knob that requires a lot of turns to go from the lowest setting to the highest setting, which can be a bit awkward to reach since you need to wrap your arm around the chair to twist the knob. As for how the lumbar support feels, it's pretty pronounced even at the lowest setting. If you're someone who likes aggressive lumbar support, then you'll probably like this. Personally, I find it to be a bit too aggressive, and since it's made of hard plastic with no padding, it can feel a bit pokey at times. When it comes to the recline on the chair, I think it's very good. It's definitely the best recline I've used on any chair in this price range. It uses a synchro tilt mechanism that provides a smooth motion throughout the entire recline. It's also a very deep recline, which is great for lounging and watching shows. You can also lock the chair in a recline position, which is nice because you won't need to engage any muscles to stay reclined. For tilt tension, the Ticova uses a traditional large knob under the seat, which personally I'm not the biggest fan of, but it's very common on budget office chairs. My issue with it is that it's pretty hard to adjust while sitting in the chair, which makes it really annoying if you're like me and need to frequently adjust the tilt tension depending on the situation. The chair uses a shared lever for the seat height adjustment and the recline lock. You can press down on the lever to adjust the seat height, and when you pull out on the lever, it locks the recline in place. Overall, the Ticova's adjustments can be pretty clunky and unintuitive compared to higher end chairs, but they still get the job done. Most other chairs in this price range won't even have a lot of these adjustments to begin with, so you really can't complain. The armrests on the Ticova are 3D adjustable with height, depth, and pivot adjustments. You don't get any width adjustments, but at this price point, these adjustments are still better than what you'll get with most other office chairs. The range of motion on most of these adjustments are pretty good. The depth adjustment lets you get really close to your desk without bumping into it, and the pivot is useful for different positions like using a mobile device or a controller. My main complaint is that the arms don't go low enough to get them completely out of the way when you're not using them. They also don't go low enough so that you can push your chair under your desk to save space. As for the armrests themselves, they're actually pretty good. They have decent softness to them, so you can comfortably dig your elbows in without feeling any discomfort at all. Also, the armrests are very sturdy with hardly any play at all. This is good for people who like to push off of the arms to either shift positions or to get up out of the chair. Overall, I'd say these armrests are actually really good. They're definitely some of the better armrests I've seen on a budget chair. They're comfortable to use, and you get a decent amount of adjustability as well. Now let's talk about the headrest, which is actually one of the better features on this chair. Now it's a two-way adjustable headrest, giving you both height and pivot adjustments. This is great because you can really dial in the position to support your head, whether you're sitting upright and working or reclining back to watch some shows. The headrest itself is pretty well padded and has a good amount of surface area to it. Unlike a lot of other budget chairs that have these narrow headrests with hard plastic frames that dig into your head, the Ticova's headrest is actually comfortable to use. The padding extends all the way to the edges, so you never feel any hard plastic edges pressing against your head or neck. That said, the fabric isn't the best quality. It can feel a bit rough and scratchy when you're rubbing against it, but it's not bad enough to make the headrest uncomfortable. One minor issue I have with the headrest is that there's quite a bit of play where it attaches. When you're resting your head on it and shifting around, you can kind of feel it wobble a bit, which can be a bit annoying. Adjusting it is also pretty clunky. You need to apply a decent amount of force to adjust the height, which makes it really difficult to make small adjustments. Usually what happens is you'll try to move it up just a little bit, but because of how much force you need to apply, it'll jump up several notches at once. I've actually had times where I've pulled too hard and the entire headrest just popped right off of the chair. Over time, these adjustments might get a bit easier to use since the plastic on plastic connection points will probably wear down a bit. But out of the box, it's definitely on the stiff side. The good thing about this though is that once you have the headrest in the position that you want, you really don't need to worry about unintentionally moving it out of position. So despite these minor issues with the adjustments, I still think the headrest is a solid feature on this chair. The fact that it's adjustable at all is pretty impressive considering the price point. And more importantly, it's actually comfortable to use, which is something I can't say about a lot of headrests on office chairs, even the ones that are way more expensive. Now, when it comes to materials and build quality, this is where you're going to see some compromises, which is honestly expected for a chair that costs under $150. The chair uses pretty basic components across the board. You can tell that they're likely just combining off-the-shelf parts from an OEM rather than designing specific components for this chair. For example, it uses a 6-piece wheelbase instead of a 1-piece design that you'll find on higher-end chairs. The casters are also pretty basic carpet casters. If you have hardwood floors, I'd probably recommend either getting a chair mat or upgrading to some rollerblade style casters to avoid scratching up your floors. I'll leave some links to the ones that I use down in the description. The mesh and fabric materials aren't the highest quality either. The mesh is pretty thin without much elasticity, and the fabric can be a bit scratchy against your bare skin. That said, it gets the job done and is still comfortable enough for daily use. Now, while the build quality isn't amazing, I think it's perfectly acceptable for the price. You're getting what you typically find on most office chairs under $300, and this chair costs less than half of that. The Ticova costs around $120 to $160, and at this price point, I think it's an amazing value for the money. Keep in mind that at this price point, no chair is going to be perfect in every category. You're always going to have some trade-offs, whether it's in build quality, comfort, adjustability, or design. What makes the Ticova stand out is where it chooses to make those trade-offs. Instead of focusing on flashy aesthetics like a lot of budget chairs do, especially those racing-style gaming chairs in this price range, the Ticova prioritizes comfort and adjustability. You're getting features that you typically won't see until you get into much higher price tiers. Things like height and depth adjustable lumbar support, 3D adjustable armrests, multiple position tilt locks, and an adjustable headrest. I mean, there are chairs that cost twice as much that don't come close to this level of adjustability. More importantly, the chair is just comfortable. I can sit in this chair for 6 to 8 hours a day with no real issues at all. The seat pad is supportive, the mesh backrest is breathable, and all of the adjustability options really let you dial it in to fit your body. Now, the major trade-off is going to be build quality and longevity. You're getting pretty basic components across the board. Also, the warranty is only 1 year, which is pretty indicative of the expected lifespan of this chair. Realistically, I'd expect to get about 2 to 3 years of heavy use out of this chair if you're sitting in it for 6 to 8 hours per day. Maybe up to 5 years if you're only using it for a few hours a day. But given the low price point, I actually think that's perfectly acceptable. The replacement cost is low enough that even if you need to buy a new chair every couple of years, you're still spending less than you would on a higher end chair. Think about it this way. Most premium ergonomic chairs cost around $1,000 to $1,500 and come with 12-year warranties. You could buy a new Ticova every 3 years for 12 years and still spend less money overall. Now, I'm not necessarily recommending you do this, but it helps put the value proposition into perspective. Overall, I think the Ticova hits a really good sweet spot when it comes to price and performance. It delivers where it matters most, like comfort and adjustability, while making smart compromises on things like build quality and aesthetics, which allows it to hit this aggressive price point. So ultimately, whether you're looking for your first ergonomic chair and don't want to spend a lot of money on it, or you just need something comfortable that'll last you a couple of years, then I think the Ticova is one of the best options you can get at this price point, and I would definitely recommend it.